Greetings, friend, and welcome to the Between the Covers podcast, where we are working every day to remove the self-limiting beliefs that are preventing us from becoming the heroes of our own stories. I am Marcus Spar, and today I want to share some insights from something that happened just yesterday, actually, at the time of this recording. Things just continue week by week to just be more and more of a shit show. And I am just so over it right now. In fact, I have found myself more and more wanting to just disconnect and dissociate because my nervous system, and to my understanding, no one else's nervous system, was meant to withstand the awful torrent of bad news that continues to come up in news, in social media, feeds, things of that nature. I am very careful about what it is that I allow in on a daily and weekly basis. I almost exclusively get my news through the works of Brad Onishi and Dan Miller through Straight White American Jesus and Dr. Craig Johnson in his 15 Minutes of Fascism podcast. And every now and again, I will see something on Blue Sky, but I usually don't click through because, again, it's just been so much. From what these sources are often looking into, it's disheartening, to say the least. It is a very delicate balance to stay informed while also not falling into the pits of despair when I just can't take any more bad news. For some cultural relevance right now, the East Wing of the White House is being demolished so that the president can construct a $240 million ballroom. And this is something that is very disheartening. In fact, I was listening to the weekly roundup on Straight White American Jesus, and you can tell a lot about a presidency by what they build. And what we are seeing with the current president is he wants to demolish things that are symbols of our country and our democracy. And yes, he wants to build an arch to himself, but he's also going to spend $10 billion to make detention centers to hold illegal immigrants. This is the legacy that he's leaving. He's leaving a legacy of destruction and of pain for many, many people. Now, hearing this news, it's, as I said, it's disheartening. It is troubling, to say the least, to hear that a national monument, a building that has stood since 1812, that was the last time that it came under attack when the British invaded and set it on fire. There have been some small attacks. I was doing a little bit of research, and apparently one of the biggest things was someone drove through a wall or a door or something like that. But this is the first time since 1812, when we are at war with Great Britain, that this kind of damage and destruction has been done to the White House. And this is being done for a vanity project, when there are so many people who are going to have huge increases in their health insurance. Libby and I are looking at not having health insurance next year, and that's a frightening prospect. We honestly cannot afford it if we end up experiencing the price hike that we are anticipating. The plans that are available to us, they're not good. And it would actually do us better to not pay insurance and set the money for premiums aside and use that towards paying cash for anything that comes up. And we just hope that we do not have any kind of serious accident or malady or need to have a trip to the emergency room, because that would pretty much destroy us with how the United States healthcare system is. All of this is very depressing. All of this, when I look at it, when this is the stuff that I'm hearing, when this is the stuff that I am taking in, it is depressing. It is. I find myself riddled with despair. I find myself, as I said earlier, just wanting to dissociate, just become apathetic. And this is where it's valuable for us to diversify our sources. As I mentioned so many times before, I am an average podcast listener. And there is a podcast that I have been listening to for a while that went on a little bit of a hiatus. And that's just the nature of the creator. That is the nature of the creator of the podcast. He does not create episodes unless he really has something to talk about, and it's something that kind of comes and goes in seasons. And this man is something of a spiritual mentor to me. I really started taking in his podcast when I was going through my faith deconstruction. And he has some incredible insights on the nature of spirituality, on the Bible, on what's going on in society and the world today. You may have heard of him. In fact, I may have mentioned him in previous episodes. His name is Rob Bell, and he used to be a pastor in Michigan, I think. Over this last weekend, I had 2 new podcast episodes from the Robcast show up in my feed. And when I saw the title of one of the episodes, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to continue listening to his podcasts. And with everything that I've been talking about, you might have an understanding why. Because the title of this episode was, I'm excited for the ballroom. And I'm like, okay, with everything that I have heard from Rob Bell, he is anything but MAGA. He is anything but very conservative, evangelical, Christian nationalist. But I have come to trust Rob. And so it's like, well, let's see what he has to say. Why is he excited for this ballroom? And as I was listening to his take on what's going on, he was able to put a very different perspective to these times. Because one of the things that is happening is, with everything that has been going on, with these changes, with money being withheld from sources in order to go towards other sources like the military and Border Patrol and ICE and all of this bullshit that is just going on over here. What Rob had expressed is, with all of this despair and depression that is going around, we are seeing more and more people who are actually taking notice of where their taxes are going, what their taxes are being used for. These things that they are paying into, how they're being used. And people are starting to notice, yeah, this isn't going to what I want it to. And there are a lot of people who are starting to speak up. And we're not just talking about individuals who are a part of Indivisible, who have been at these No Kings rallies. We're talking about average, everyday people that are just getting tired and worn out from this deluge of bad news. And they're doing a little more research than they have before. They have become a little more involved in politics. They have become a little more interested in taxes, in where their finances are going, and what these investments are revealing, what these investments are supporting. As suspicious as I was initially when I saw the title of that podcast episode, I really shouldn't have been surprised. I shouldn't have even been suspicious that Rob had changed his tune at all. He has always looked at these things since he started this podcast from a very different perspective. And he is one of those people who is great at finding hope when so many people are not finding it. And he really helped me to look at this from a new outlook. If we diversify where we are getting our information, where we're getting our news, where we are looking for any kind of information on current events or just life in general, we might be able to find something that is more hopeful than if we silo ourselves into just the sources that we have come to rely on. It's a lot like with traditional media, the people who spend their time just getting news from Fox or just getting news from MSNBC, where the information is very tailored to just one audience. The audience of the far right or the audience of the far left. Yeah, I absolutely appreciate the work that Brad Onishi and Dan Miller do with Straight White American Jesus. And also Andrew Seidel, who releases a podcast through Access Mundi Media as well every single week. And these guys are good at what they do. And there also tends to be a focus on all of the bullshit, everything that is going on that is wrong, and how this is having a deleterious impact on the world, on the communities that I'm a part of. And it's good to be informed. And at the same time, one of the reasons why, especially for the weekly roundup for Straight White American Jesus, why I love to listen to it is Brad and Dan always, at the end, have reasons for hope. On the Discord server that I'm a part of, there is a channel specifically devoted to reasons for hope. And sometimes that is the only channel I go to when I go on the Straight White American Jesus Discord server, because I can't take much more. I really can't. I need hope. I need hope to help me get through this time, which is why I'm grateful for these people, for these authorities. And that's why I'm grateful that I didn't go with my initial reaction to Rob Bell's episode and just unsubscribe. That would have been probably one of the worst decisions that I could have made. And it's also very telling for why we should not make these decisions when we're in a very emotional state, because that's definitely what happened. I saw that, and my my worst case scenario mind kicked in, and it's like, oh no, what has happened here? And it actually turned out to be so much different than I expected and so much more uplifting. I doubt you're listening to this, Rob Bell, but for what it's worth, thanks so much for the hope, and thanks so much for subverting my expectations, which is something I ironically should have expected. And I want to encourage you, my friend, to maybe change who you're listening to. Maybe on social media, there are certain profiles or channels where you need to mute those for a little while. I had to do that with some of the people on Blue Sky that I follow. Not that I stopped following them, but I had to take a break from everything that was popping up in my feed. One thing that's coming up for me right now as I'm verbally processing through a lot of this here is we do have control of the well that we get our water from. I will admit that I will never, ever sit down and watch Fox News in order to get my information. Every little clip that I hear from them, it is so riddled with hatred and anger and even abuse of speech that is not a place that I'm going to go. In fact, in a lot of cases, I don't trust a lot of traditional media outlets. And that's unfortunate because there's a lot of bootlicking going on here. A lot of fear, a lot of people giving in to the powers that be in order to get on the current administration's good side. And that's unfortunate because that's not what journalism is about. It's about speaking the truth. It's about providing the facts and helping people draw their own conclusions. There are certain places I will not go. In fact, kind of following some advice from a friend of mine, if I hear of a story that has taken place, one of the first sources that I will look to, and some people might not agree with this, but I look at the BBC because the British, the BBC, they honestly don't care what the President of the United States thinks. They just kind of tell it like it is. If you find yourself spiraling, just hearing the same stuff over and over again, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been hearing about someone like me who, according to the administration, is a terrorist. I don't like that, but I'm also not going to kowtow to them. I'm not going to give up on my ability to speak my truth. I'm not going to give up on this important work of helping people become the heroes in their stories. I've said this so many times, and I mean it. We absolutely need more heroes in today's society. And the people who are abusing their power, they also think that they're being heroic. And it's not a background character in a story who is going to typically stand up to a hero. It's going to take another hero. It's going to take a hero that is antagonistic towards the views of the other. And that's why we need you. I hope, it is my sincerest hope that I'm not just spouting this off into the void I mean, the downloads are telling me some people are listening. And if you are listening, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that. If you haven't already, please give this podcast a rating and a review. Please subscribe, like the video, leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this on YouTube. But we need more people who are brave enough to stand up to the authorities in power. We really do. And if you're looking to the Between the Covers podcast for kind of current events, I would strongly suggest that you look elsewhere. Because the nature of this is not current. In fact, I am at least 10 weeks behind on all of the news. Because a great example of this is coming out towards the end of January in 2026. And I am recording this the Monday before Halloween of 2025. That doesn't really bother me because the nature of the news cycle and how everything is moving by so quickly, we might need some reminders of what's going on 10 weeks from now, 11 weeks, 12, however long it is. I can absolutely recommend the work of Straight White American Jesus. You can listen to their episodes. You don't need to become a member like I have. You can listen to ads and you can just take in everything that they're researching, what they're finding. You can listen to Dr. Craig Johnson's work through 15 Minutes of Fascism. And you can also listen to, if you're wanting things from a more, we'll say, lighthearted perspective, then you can also take a look at the works of Puzzle in a Thunderstorm, where they have the Skeptocrat, God Awful Movies, Citation Needed, among others. You can also listen to Fallacious Trump. That's another one that I listen to. That's a great podcast with two Brits who just kind of tell it like it is. And there's also the No Rogan experience that can be very eye-opening when we are looking at the influence that came about, especially during this last election, through the Joe Rogan experience and the Maniverse or whatever they're calling it these days. These are all places that you can look to. And I know for Libby, whenever she hears of something, she goes to, what is it, Ground News? I think it's what it's called. That they will take a look at who's running this article and what's the leaning on it. And it's a great way to diversify and find some other sources and some other perspectives on what is going on here. This is one of those examples of if we just continue to go from the same well over and over again, we know exactly what we're going to get. And that's why I'm so grateful to the work of Rob Bell. And I am also so grateful to the work of Straight White American Jesus. I am so grateful to the words that I hear from Brad Onishi, from Dan Miller, from Andrew Seidel, from Dr. Laura Anderson and Andrew Curbs of the Sunday School Dropouts. These are all places that have helped me to really open my eyes to what's going on around me. And for the most part, they also have given me plenty of hope. It is also just unfortunate that a lot of that hope can just be lost amidst the deluge of bad news that keeps coming out. Regardless, know that you're not alone. You absolutely are not alone. There are many, many out there who are really starting to feel the pressure of what's going on here. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens if this legislative shutdown continues and there is nothing that comes about in order to help the average American have good and affordable health insurance. And I've heard from the people in this administration, a lot of cases they don't really seem to care, because someone like me, I don't know, maybe they hope that I will suffer some kind of accident and not be able to afford it and end up passing away, because especially the weak and the infirm, the sickly, those are all people that they're like, they should just die. I have heard it from their own words that they should just die. I'm going to do everything I can to stay here, to create this safe space. I'm going to do everything I can to become the hero in my story and to inspire others to do the same. You are not alone, my friend. There are many other heroes walking side by side with you. There are many who are paving the way, and there are many who are going to come after you. We all have a part to play. We all have something that we can contribute. We can't do everything, but we can do something. And that's oftentimes what I have to remind myself of on a daily basis, because I want to do everything, but I just don't have the energy for it. I really don't. But I can do something, even if that's sitting here in front of this microphone and this camera, even if it's just giving some money to Access Mundi Media, if it's giving some money to the Freedom from Religion Foundation, if it is continuing to give money to the local sex trafficking organization, even if it is just checking in with my community, with my friends, with my fellowship, checking in with Libby, even if it is just doing what I need to so that when the action is needed, that I am able to find the courage to do so. Kind of like what happened when I was interviewing Reverend Alba Onofrio, where I was telling her that I was wondering if I was going to have to jump into action as a truck was slowing down when there was a Hispanic mother and a young toddler walking down the street. I was ready to do something if it was necessary. I can do something. You can do something. And one of the most important things that you can do is you can take care of yourself. You're worth it. You're worth the investment. And just know that here at Between the Covers, I support you and I love you. And I will do everything I can in order to help you thrive. In these often dire times, it can be really hard to thrive when all it feels like the best we can do is survive. And that is okay. This is the season. We'll get through this season together. So hang in there. Keep your chin up. Keep fighting. Keep resisting. And until next time, live strong for today.